So we talked about slope-intercept. You've talked about that since 7th grade, right? 7th grade, 8th grade. So remember y equals mx plus b. So in our calculator, if we're using the yellow calculator, we did menu 413. If we're using Desmos, we would add our table and then we would do y1 squiggle mx1 plus b. So it looks very, very similar. The only difference is we have to put these little ones here. Okay, because in Desmos, when we make a table, it's going to call it x1, y1. When we do a quadratic, notice again, right, this one was a line, but this one, we call that a parabola. Okay, this in the yellow calculator is going to be menu 416. Or if you're using Desmos, again, it's just like this one up here. We just have to add ones. A, x1, don't forget the squared, b, x1 plus c. That's what it's going to look like in Desmos. So today, you'll have your yellow calculator if you want to do it that way. I'm also going to show you in Desmos because you always have your computer at home for Desmos. What type of function is represented in this table? So you have to look and see what is it doing. If it's linear, then it's adding the same number over and over and over, or subtracting the same number over and over and over, which we can see right here. It's not doing that, right? 8.5 to 6 is 2.5, but 6 to 5 is only 1. It's also not multiplying or dividing. That would be exponential. But I do want you to notice that, look, the numbers are going down, and then they're going down, and then what do they start doing? Now they're going up. So that tells you that this is going to be a parabola. So you know it's going to be quadratic. Okay, so you have to pay attention to those details. So we need to find this equation, and then we can make a prediction for what that next number would be. So you can use your yellow calculator to do this. I'm also going to do it in Desmos so that you can see that, and I'll post a screenshot. So your paper should look like this, okay? We wrote it on the other slide, but that way you can see the things. So again, this negative 5.26 and 10.8, those are buddy points. They're across from each other. If we folded it on the axis of symmetry through that vertex, okay, they would be in the same spot. That's why we actually have 2 coordinates when y is 34. Mr. Williams is trying to relocate a bow shot from Lord of the Rings, in which Legolas launched an arrow off the top of a castle at some orcs. Mr. Williams found a building that was 25 feet off the ground. Okay, that's going to be your y-intercept. That's where he's starting. Using the table below, write a quadratic equation that would represent the path of the arrow and make predictions. The points below with x being the distance in yards and the arrow traveled. So look, here's your y-intercept. And again, we know this is quadratic because look, we have some buddy points here, right? So that makes this probably our vertex. We talked about that the other day. So we need to write our standard form equation, guys. That's that ax squared plus bx plus c that we talked about. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to use either your yellow calculator or you can make the table in Desmos, whichever you prefer, to get that equation. So this was my equation from Desmos or your yellow calculator. It says, what is the max distance the arrow would travel before reaching the ground? Okay, when it reaches the ground, that is going to be a root, an x-intercept, a solution. This is why I tell you go ahead and type that into Desmos, because when you do that, you can zoom out, you can see exactly where it's touching the x-axis, and you can tap that little dot, and it's going to tell you. So I think most of y'all probably did it in the yellow calculator, so we'll say about 108. What is the approximate height of the arrow when it is 82 yards away? So again, that's when I put in, okay, when it's 82 yards away from the building, that's my x now. So I type into Desmos, x equals 82, and we can see where it crosses. So we could say about, we could use a squiggle equals about 24. Okay, So you need to be able to not only create the equation, but look at the graph and find out what is happening. So when you put this in Desmos, I put the plus, I put my table, I typed in my quadratic, and it's going to give me A, B, and C. And these are kind of ugly. So A is 0.447. We could actually round that to 0.45. We could say B, negative 2.479, maybe negative 2.48. And then C, 8.55. That 4 is not going to change anything. So I would write my equation like this. Y equals 0.45x squared. And if you're using your yellow calculator to get this, then I would actually type this equation in Desmos. That way you can see your line. Minus 2.48x, don't forget your x and your x squared, plus 8.55. Now, since I already did mine in Desmos, it automatically drew that line for me. You can see the red dots from my table, and then the purple line was when it wrote my equation, okay? So our paper is asking for our equation, and then it says, what are the values of x when y is 34? This is why I want you to type your equation into Desmos, okay? So if you use the yellow calculator, type it into Desmos, and you should see a line. It may not be purple like mine, but you should have a line like mine. And then in the next line, I want you to type y equals 34. It's going to give you a second line. You might need to zoom out a little bit, and you're just going to find where those lines cross. And you can see the nice thing in Desmos, if you tap, there should be a little gray line where they cross. You can tap those buttons. You can see here, x is 34, or y is 34, so x is 10.9 and negative 5.26. So we can write both of those answers because both of those have y equals 34. They are, in fact, buddy points. We talked about that yesterday. And the reason we have 2 is because that y is going to get repeated because it's a parabola. Okay? So I went in, I edited my table I had before. I've got my new A, B, and C. Okay? And if you did the yellow calculator, you should have gotten those same numbers. Okay? So you can see I took those. I kind of rounded them a little bit when I put them. I'm just going to type the equation into Desmos, okay? So I do want you to do that. Because I did my original in Desmos, that's going to be the purple line that you see here. And then because I rounded when I typed it in, it made the black line. So it's really, really close. It's off just a little bit. But remember, when we round, that's going to happen. And that's okay. If we look at the questions on our notes, so this is going to be where it touches the ground. So if you're using the purple line, it's 104. If you're using the black line, it's 108. And that's what we would write there. Because if it's hitting the ground, that's going to be where x, okay, our x number when y is 0. So here's where it crosses at 82. Okay, so we'll say 93, or we say, I'm sorry, 2293 or 2557, call it 24, right? And remember, you can estimate there. It's usually going to be a multiple choice question, so then you just pick the answer that's closest to yours. Let's do a couple on our practice. We talked at the very beginning about deciding if it is linear or quadratic, okay? So remember, we said it's quadratic if what goes down comes back up, right? If you have some numbers that are changing directions, so like on number 1 here, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. Okay, is it going down by the same amount? Well, that's what we need to kind of figure out. Like this is changing by 4s, and this is changing by 4s. This went down 8, and this went down 8. So if it's going down by the same amount, that's going to be our rate of change. That's going to be our slope. So this is going to be linear. Okay? Whereas if we look over here at this one is going, this one went up, and then it went down, down, down. Okay, well, if it changed direction, is that linear? Or is that going to be quadratic? That's going to be quadratic because that's our whole, that's our parabola piece. Okay, so before you can start using lists and spreadsheets, if you're using 413 or 416 for quadratic, you gotta first decide what kind of equation we need. Sometimes if it's multiple choice, you can see all of these are linear. Okay, so I'm using 413, or all of our answers are quadratic, 416. And tomorrow we'll do some more practice with that. Here we have a table. Let's see, do you want to do 3, 4, 5, or 6? What are we thinking here? 3, 4, 5, or 6. Let's pick one. I like that one, right? We like to play games. So let's look at number 4. Again, write the function and predict. We got to figure out, is this in fact linear or quadratic? We'll look and see what's happening here. It's going up. This is 1.25. This is actually going to be linear. Look, it's going up, 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 up. So this is going to be a 413 equation. Look at number 3 though. Up, up, oh, now it's going down. Now it's going down, now it's going down. So this one's going to be a 416. So do we still want to do 4, or do we want to try number 3? We could do both. Let's do both. So let's start with number 4. Let's put that in our list and spreadsheets. So we put that into the yellow calculator, and we got y equals, my m is 1.25, so 1.25x, so 125 per game, plus $10 to get in wherever you were going, main event or the rodeo or what have you. The next question says, how many games would you need to play to have spent $41? So this is where I think using Desmos is a whole lot easier. If we're going to type 1.25x plus 10 into Desmos, and then it says $41, $41 would be here, right? So that's going to be your y. So we need to type in y equals 41, and we're going to look for where it crosses. So this would be 24 games. So you also have to think about that context. So let's try the last one, and then we'll probably be done for the day. Go to either list and spreadsheets, or you can use Desmos. And we said this one was 416 because it's quadratic. 7.74 miles per gallon. That's very terrible. All right, so you do have to make sure you know what type of equation is in the table so you can choose the right option. Or if you're in Desmos, you can type in the right equation, okay? Then decide, are they asking you about x or y? Type that and see where they cross. Here's what it looks like. Can we have 0.8 of a game? No. So would we round up or round down? Did we actually finish to get to 25 games? No, we only played how many? 24. And then you would probably have some money left over. So here we put it in our yellow calculator. We got our equation. We said x equals 50 because that's speed. And here's your fuel economy. That is very, very poor fuel economy. So we would say 7.74.